After the party, it's the after party. Welcome, everybody. I am your host, Ray, and I'm doing a video that I supposedly should have been doing a long time ago. This is just side quest right now. I'm like, we just doing side quests right now. So, this video is how the game industry has failed black women. It's still Black History Month, so I can do this. And I talked about Black lead protagonist. I don't know if that was ever a video though, but there was a video of Black lead protagonist I was looking at, and thought it was a good video. It was by the same person actually, Sim Siga. So actually, I never did. I just looked at it, but I thought it was a good video. I may go back to that, but I already watched it, so but I don't remember anything from it except for Lee in The Walking Dead. But anyway, I wanted to look at this how the game industry has failed black women. I am a gamer, and I just thought this was a cool topic to look at, and I guess we're now confirming that Clementine is black, which is funny because she's played by a white woman. But let's go.
When it comes to black women representation in games, the topic is such a behemoth of a subject matter that I almost didn't make it. And not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want to. Beyond the prejudice and racist outcry that ensues following seeing a black character on the screen, the story of having black women in video games is only a single bullet point within the laundry list of spaces where black people must pioneer for this space to belong. In other words, this story isn't new. What I'm going to say in this video is not revolutionary. It is simply another facet within the broader spectrum. Nevertheless, this is a topic that needs to be talked about, and it has to touch on sensitive issues while simultaneously being composed enough to not go into the territory of too radical. So today we're going to be dissecting why there's so few black women video game characters, especially in AAA titles, and why in all actuality, there probably never will be. When video games first rose in
Okay, just want to knock out two things. One, um, as for representation matters. Let's just say that representation matters. I think there should be more diverse characters in video games. And there was a time where like everything was a straight white male, and I always thought video games had the worst kind of diversity when it comes to their lead, but then again, all the games that was coming out, it has involved straight white men. So I don't think there was a lot of creative, especially in shooters. When shooters was really popular, it wasn't really that much creativity going around. So having a straight white man on there, it was kind of like it was just there. It was just there. Let me just say that. As far as um how many black leads I can name them all on one finger, but my favorite has always been Lee from The Walking Dead. And if you ever played Telltale's The Walking Dead, you understand why. Lee is actually a lot of people's favorite protagonist, especially when it comes to other black protagonists, or just black characters in video games in general. But Lee is always one of the favorites, so much that I got the guy that voice acted Lee to say happy birthday to my little sister, and that was on I think that was on Cameo app. His name escapes me, but it I'm gonna probably figure it later. As y'all know if y'all know who it is, but I don't know why his name escapes me so much, but because I just looked at it. But anyway, he told my sister happy birthday, and I paid for it, and it was kind of like one of the sweetest things because she loved Telltale's Walking Dead. Um, should there be more diverse characters? Yes, there should be more diverse characters in there, but the story has to. I don't want people forcing anything in there because if you force something, then you get the people talk about woke, and then it kills your game. But I do think there should be more female. If the story deserves it, supports it, then yeah, put it in there because we shouldn't be killing games like um to Assassin's Creed when they had Yasuo in the game, even though like his historically black people was in Japan. But you get white racists all the time, and that shit just bugs me all the time. So, um, and like we don't have to be just street niggas. And we could be people in like in many things. But anyway, let's get back to the video.
Popularity, the audience and therefore target demographic were largely young boys and men. Technology started rapidly progressing in the 90s, and
Dave Fennoy. That's his name. Dave Fennoy. He was a. I knew it was gonna pop up in my head. I'm sorry.
therefore, more and more gaming consoles and video games were coming out. Companies like Sega, Atari, and Sony were pioneers in cultivating the framework of video games as we know them today. When you think of video games back then, you will conceptualize fighting games, shooters, platformers. While these titles did have a woman audience, the male audience was more prominent. And this could be because of gender stereotypes that were put in place through society and pushed through the media. You know, girls like pink and dolls, and boys like cars and dinosaurs. Since the target demographic was boys and men, the conversation of having black characters, let alone black women, wasn't even a topic of discussion up until the late 2000s. Because it wasn't up for debate whether or not the human characters within these video games were going to be white. While many people praise the 90s for nostalgia reasons, and we did see a rise of black people within media in general, creators and actors behind these projects were heavily restricted at best and outright mistreated at worst. The powers that be, the they at the top of the food chain, do have immense power and therefore dictate and gatekeep the culture and public perception of any given topic. But it was even more constricted and powerful back then, meaning black media was not allowed to hit the screens unless it was approved by boards of white people, ones who had no interest in actually appealing to black audiences. The show Good Times, while progressive and a breath of fresh air for its time, as they got further along in the seasons, they were far more interested in the antics of JJ and making him into a caricature than giving an accurate depiction of the black family structure. Trina,
As correct as she is, they do that in white shows too. Um, Happy Days really became the Fonz show. Yeah. Usually, like when I think they call it jumping the shark. They really just focuses on one thing, and it honestly it came from Happy Days. But it's also it's like as the seasons go on, and this is also called flanderization. Whatever traits they had, they kind of like turn it up a notch, and it happens to a lot of shows that you'll see. The Parkins is one of them. Kim, she wasn't stupid, but she wasn't, she wasn't the smartest person, but she also wasn't stupid. And then when it came on to the Parkers, she kind of like got dumber and dumber every season. Um, that 70 show, Kelso got dumber and dumber. One thing, if you have a dumbass on your show, he's going to get dumber. All right, it is inevitable. It's like it always happens. Like the dumb guy becomes even dumber because the dumber, as I guess, the dumber he is, the funnier it is. They may have a point because I swear to God, one of my favorite episodes was Kelso when he was talking about shooting the he had a flare gun and he kept shooting it and he said it started a big fire. Well, I started shot another flare gun because you know what they say, fight fire with fire. Uh, oh my god, I ain't never laughed so fucking hard. He said, "Did I shot another?" one?" And I just got him. Oh man, like I butchered the whole thing. I'm sorry, but that was one of my favorite episodes of that 70 show. I fucking was dying when I was fucking that, and when Eric tried to kick the door down and he fucking knocked it to the wall. It just like it just. I swear to God, I was crying for like 5 minutes. It was like something stupid. It was something simple, but it made me. Honestly, it was one of the first episodes I watched too, and it made me fucking cry for 5 minutes because it was so hilarious. That 70 show was funny as hell. But let's get back to the show.
making him into a caricature than giving an accurate depiction of the Black family structure. Trina McGee from Boy Meets World, running from 1993 to 2000, had to do all of her hairstyles herself, and this was simply because there weren't any stylists on set who knew how to do Afro-textured hair. She is not unique in this.
Walter Emmanuel Jones, aka Zach from the Power Rangers, the Black Zach. If you ever seen the movie Brink, and he talks about this too, he had to go through that too. Y'all ever wonder why his hairline looked like that? Because they didn't know how to do black hair. They still don't know how to do black hair. If you ever watch America's Next Top Model, and I just talked about this yesterday, but on the documentary, Emily, she had to go through that because they never did black hair. And the thing is, it's just like they know they never did black hair, but they kind of like gotta feed their family, so they say, "Yeah, I've done black hair before," and then they just fuck it up. So that that's a big thing as well. Yeah, she is absolutely correct. I felt sorry for all the black actors because you could tell like a lot of stuff wasn't meant for them, but they had to make it, which is why I glazed the '90s. I mean, I glazed the '90s because I feel like that was black excellence, and even with all the bullshit, look at the shit we still make.
Power structure can be applied to video games too. The first games to have a Black woman main character were Urban Chaos and Beyond Good and Evil, released in 1999 and 2003 respectively.
We count Jada's, but did I count Jada? I thought she was more Asian. If she's black, then let's go. But I never really saw her as black. This is me, and that's just my ignorance. Never really saw her as black, more or less Asian. But if you want to say she's black, yeah. Urban Chaos, yeah. That's a black woman.
Not gonna lie, Urban Chaos looks like it fucks. I would play that. Like, I would so play that. It's a platform game where you play as Darcy Stern, a rookie cop. There's a bunch of cool features that were even innovative for the time period. Unfortunately, it didn't meet the heights that it was meant to because of buggy gameplay and a lack of fleshing out the contemporary features that they did come up with. Beyond Good and Evil appears to be a well-crafted project too, but it didn't achieve commercial success because of its lack of depth in gameplay. The sequel has been in the works for 14 years. Make that make sense.
That's a cult classic, though. A lot of people still love that game. And she's right, though. It did flop, but cult classic, usually, like, those are the games that they'll flop, but people still love them because they're like, and then they turn to cult classic. So they end up kind of like getting a second life. It's the same thing like movies that flop in the theaters, but they do real good on DVD sales. They usually get their second life there.
While both of these games are cult classics within their fan bases, poor planning and a lack of technological advancements prevented them from being some of the greats. This appears to be a repeated pattern. When Black women are given the opportunity to be at the forefront of games, it comes at the price of a decrease in quality. There's one example that I believe to be the worst out of all of them. 9 years after Beyond Good and Evil, Ubisoft would release Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation. It's a story set in the Deep South during the era leading up to the American Revolution, focusing on themes of freedom and slavery. The premise and story seem really cool, offering a level of stealth in the form of picking different personas to blend in or defend yourself depending on the situation. However, this game was first released solely on the PlayStation Vita, a handheld console that succeeded the PSP. The game was not only a mess to play at times, it also copy and pasted the same animations from the original Assassin's Creed 3, which players say is the worst installment of the series, by the way. A game that is such a beacon of representation and storytelling that's relevant to modern contextualism didn't even get its own standalone game within the IP, but leftovers from an already existing one. Now,
I'm gonna say this because one of my friends, it was actually a white dude. His name is Holmes. He was telling me about that. He was like, the story is actually good. He did say, I said the gameplay is because obviously the Vita didn't have a right analog stick, so it probably adjusted camera was fucking shitty. But that was a good game. Like I was like I wanted to play because it did have a black female lead, and I heard the story was great. And even he said, "Oh, that's one of the best stories that he's heard." But yeah, and I like the how the copy animations. I don't think no one would have really cared because back then it was back then. I don't think anybody was thinking about doing animations then. I don't. So I'm not saying she's lying, but I don't think anybody would have really cared, and I think that was probably be an excuse not to play the game. But um, I know that game was meant to be for the Vita though, so and that was like kind of what was supposed to sell the game.
A baby when these games came out, so I wasn't there to experience the community response or the whispers that could have been said about what was going on with the development of these games. I can only speculate that the reason why these games were handled with so little care was not because the teams weren't passionate about the projects, but because their studios didn't give them adequate backing and financial support. It's a further exemplification and a prelude to the continued mismanagement of Black women representation in games today. When I talk about these topics, I'm very specific with my wording, and that is for good reason. This isn't to say that I'm never wrong, it's to highlight that some people aren't listening to me. I ask where the Black female main character representation is in games, and people will rattle off characters such as Rochelle from Left 4 Dead 2 and Shiva from Resident Evil 5. But those are either supporting characters or in some
I don't know about. I never that's what that. Those are co-leads, so they're not the main leads, but they are co-lead. I know six because I think she was from no five. Sheva's from five.
and Shiva
Sheva is as pronounced Sheva, but technically, if you kind of go through the story, it was her mission because it was in her hometown. But Chris was kind of like I don't know, but the Resident Evil was about Chris. It's kind of like one of the mix up things. So, um, I would say Sheva counts, but I guess like a standalone one. If that's what she's talking about, then yeah, she has a point. But yeah, she wasn't. I wouldn't really call Sheva a support character. She was a co-lead.
from Resident Evil 5. But those are either supporting characters or in some cases like Elena from Street Fighter 3, optional choices. Or they'll rattle off another group of people like Black men or even better, another race of minority people. The people who do this are coming from a good place, and I do understand the sentiment of my wins are your wins, which isn't true by the way. That is so not true. But please, stop. You're diluting my argument and invalidating my point. It's not that Black women
I'm not gonna lie. Shining Wolf does this. He would say, "Oh yeah, there's a lot of black leads, like Elaine," and he'll say
are
Elena from
never
Street.
in
He'll say like Elena from Street Fighter, a couple of black people from different fighting games. It was just like, and even I had this argument. That's not what they're talking about. God bless him. That's my man, 100 grand best friend. But it's like that's not what to talk about. But he will also say if that counts. He was like that counts. But I was just like, I've always said fighting game characters don't count because usually their stories are optional, and they usually go with the main character stories, especially like if it's Tekken. Like there's a lot of like stories after you win, but they usually go with the main character stories. Like um King. King like there's a bunch of stories in the first Tekken, but King won the first one. I think the second one was Jin. Not Jin, I'm sorry. Kazuya won this? No. It's either Heihachi or it's been Mishima's and then Jin won a third one. It's like something like that. I'm getting the Tekken story all mixed up.
my argument and invalidating my point. It's not that Black women are never in games. We get a very generous one Black woman on the screen from 1997 until 2011. And that's not main characters, by the way. But if you want to count
Michelle, Karma from League of Legends, Perna Jackson, Dead Alice, Clementine, Nilin, Margaret, Maggie, Jackie Briggs, Karina, Michonne, Walking in Michonne, Billy Lurk from Dishonored, Bangalore, Lifeline, Apex Legends. I guess you throw Bad Maggie in there too. Um, Harbor for Fortnite, Alex Vance from Half-Life Alex.
2011. And that's not main characters, by the way. But if you want to count that as a win, then I guess
Clementine's the main character. I don't know what the fuck she's talking about though. And so is Michonne. They're definitely definitely Michonne's own game. But continue.
racism is solved. We've been complaining for years for no reason. Everyone pack it up. We got Storm from Marvel Ultimate Alliance. The hoops that game developers probably had to jump through puts a lot of things into perspective. It's not only easier to exclude black women from your video games, it has less barriers. Pair that with the implicit bias that was way more prominent back in the 90s, and it makes the perfect storm for even the most good faith developers to simply stop trying. Focus and testing groups probably responded less enthusiastically to games like these, not because they were bad games, but because of the color and gender of the character they were playing as. To further explore why there's less excitement when it comes to seeing black women in media, but in video games in this case, we must go into the realm of psychology. Alex Korb's article from Psychology Today details the study on race and theory. The premise is that racism on some level is tied to how our brains are wired. Researchers brought in black and white men, showing clips of hands with black and white skin. The hands would be jabbed painfully with a needle, and results showed that the insula, a region of the brain that processes the physical experience of your emotions, i.e. disgust and empathy, they discovered that insula activity was far more significant when seeing a hand of the same skin color, meaning that white men responded higher to white skin and black to black. The article goes on to explain that this lack of stimuli is instantaneous. It happens without our knowledge. And the lack of stimuli in the insula varies on how biased the person is, meaning the more racist you are, the less you care about other races of people. And not just on an obvious and outward level, but on a biological response as well. The insula can be trained to have a more empathetic response to people who don't look like you, but it requires conscious effort. White people have to quite literally opt into caring about people who don't look like them, more so than black people, and I would argue that is because of exposure of white people in the media. White is the default. It is the highest level of social status in many first world countries. It's the beauty standard, the cultural standard, and it's driven not by the media alone, but it does play a large part. It started and remains from a systemic level. From scientific research from the 20th century that proved that black people weren't as intelligent, to Jim Crow, which wasn't that long ago, by the way. My grandparents lived through segregation, so I don't understand why people think we're so far removed from this. The point is, systemic oppression has always been at the forefront of society and therefore bleeds into everything else. Black people are trained to empathize, idolize, and mimic whiteness in order to get ahead or be more adjacent to the socially acceptable. Even today, black media cannot exist if it makes white audiences too uncomfortable. Most prominent.
That is called assimilation, folks. And it's technically it still happens, which is why one of the things where I just feel like even the fact that there is a BET, white people, and y'all probably any black person can understand this when there was a BET, and I know y'all always get this because I got it. How come there isn't a white entertainment television? It was like y'all have every other fucking station. It's just the fact that we got a BET, and BET hasn't been BET since fucking Bob Johnson sold the company. People still look at BET as because it's just like, damn, there ain't no white people on here. I say, but there's a white people on MTV. There's a white people on VH1. There's white people on CMT. We just this is our thing. This is that's our thing. And we tell the funny thing is we tell them. I said the reason BT is this because there isn't people like us on TV. We don't really get to see a lot of people on TV. Michael Jackson, one of the greatest icons ever, was even shown once, like every hour on VH1. And they had to take like David Bowie to show Michael Jackson, but it shows you how rare you saw black people on TV, which again why I glazed the 90s.
Black figureheads you could name off today had to climb a ladder of avoiding pitfalls that would toss them over the edge and into the territory of being too radical. The people that represent peak success must balance on a tightrope of maintaining their Black identity while also appeasing a community of others who would rather see them fail. I'm not even sure if I'm leaning too far into the territory of making people uncomfortable. I guess we'll just have to see. I'll tell you what, I won't moderate the comments on this video. They're probably not watching this far anyway, so you tell me. This matters because video games ask players to empathize, to embody a character, and that empathy is already unevenly distributed. In order for white male video game developers to include diversity, they have to step into the mind of not just a woman, but a Black woman. So who steps in?
Again, I will say this. I'm just saying this just to make sure I get this clear. I don't need it to be my race. I don't need the character to look like me for me to empathize with the character. I'm more or less about, and I'm speaking for myself here. I'm more or less about good writing. I can understand if someone wants to see this stuff or there because representation does matter, but I don't. And this again, I'm speaking for myself, and I said this before. I don't want to watch a character. I don't want to see a Black character being forced on the team, especially if it don't make sense. If it don't make sense, then I don't want to see it. But if it does make sense, yeah, put the Black person in there. Um, I know it's been done, like where it's like the character that used to be white, they make Black, like Nick Fury. And like Nick Fury is the only one I let slide because I like Samuel Jackson. But yeah, I'm usually not at that. Usually, I'm a I don't want to say stickler for the what's the word? I think the stickler for the lore. But if the character was white in the comics or in the old book, it's just let him be white. It's not gonna hurt nobody. But again, with that being said, I want to see our stories. I want to see our our representations, like about the things we put out. I would like to see more of that, not just Black people and white people's stories. I would like to see Black people and Black people's stories, like Black Panther. That's why that one kind of mattered because even though I know Marvel it's run by white people, it was still a Black person in the Black stories, and people kind of like followed that. And then the same thing with the '90s, and again another reason why I played so much. But let's get back to the video.
As the crusaders of Black representation, small indie game studios. In 2012,
Also, as far as this goes, because there's not a lot of Black male character lead protagonists either, and I personally like that way. It's because it has a lot of quality. Like the ones you can name on it, they're very, very good characters. They very stand out instead of the standard white male characters that we get to see that we probably don't even remember. So, so the fact that there isn't that many, but they stand out so much, I think it says something. Like even Sheva, like from Resident Evil 5, I think she stands out. And it's even though you wouldn't call her a lead, maybe a co-lead, but at least she does stand out because she has a character on there. So I would take it as a win. I'm pretty sure other people wouldn't, but I would take it as a win because she has a character. Now they haven't brought her back since, which is kind of sad because again, I do like her character. I did like Sheva, and hopefully she'll get to talk about it. Like Clemens, but I'm gonna just say it right now. Clementine, I think Clementine is one of the greatest protagonists, female protagonists ever. Like Clement, like especially, but it was because of the way The Walking Dead was, Telltale's The Walking Dead told their story. But Clementine is one of the greatest female protagonists ever. Definitely top five in my book.
Telltale would release the next Black female main protagonist.
Right on time. This is my girl. I don't care what you like. I don't give a damn what y'all say. Clementine, top five, if not the greatest female protagonist ever. And if you don't believe me, go play Telltale's Walking Dead. Start from season one and then play the whole thing through. You're going to see the same thing. I have never cared for a character so much that I cared for Clementine. And anybody that played the Telltale's Walking Dead, they'll tell you the same thing. I, like fuck Ellie, fuck Ellie. Um, it's all about to me. It was all about Clementine, and again, like I said, like those were story-driven games. So you're gonna you're going to care for a character a little bit more. But Clem was total badass. She was a badass, and even AJ, AJ was my dog. That's a little. You don't want to fuck with AJ.
Clementine from The Walking Dead. This is, in my opinion, the strongest success in black female protagonists to date. Some may have never heard of the previous games mentioned, but most likely will have played or at least heard of The Walking Dead. This franchise.
By the way, whoever's writing those comic books for Clementine fucking sucks, and they they need to be beaten with a. They need a 3-shoot beating for Raw.
And the studio behind it are a masterclass in how to incorporate black representation in games, and done so beautifully that it's undeniable. It also encompasses the political beats of navigating the world, even a post-apocalyptic world as a black person, so eloquently that most people will miss the message but still feel the presence of black identity. I do plan on eventually covering Clementine's story in full, so I won't dive too deep into her here, but to further prove my analysis, Clementine being a light-skinned, mixed black character with Eurocentric features is not a bad thing, but further proves my previous point that black characters must be as adjacent to white as possible in order to reach the best outcomes. A lot of people didn't even know that Clementine was black. She was voiced by a white woman. She has light eyes and what could be taken for simple curly hair, even though it is actually Afro-textured. There are also the implications from the fact that the series was introduced by a man, albeit a black man, before it got to be a female-driven game. Lee walked and attracted a male audience, which allowed Clementine to run. By the way, I give these
I don't know how to feel about that. Oh, because the in the first game, you see her parents. Both of them actually have extraterrestrials. And she's kind of light skinned, yeah, but I wouldn't call her mixed because I think both her parents were black. If, if we can look at it, we're on stray a little bit. I know they're dead, but we're gonna they both again, this is probably a bad example because both of them were dead, but obviously I think both of them have very curly hair. I think one of them, if not both of them, was kind of light skinned, but um these are her parents.
I see, and it was only a little open when I found it. I closed it to keep us safe.
Staying an extra day. Thanks so much for looking after Clementine, and I promise we'll be back in time before your spring break. 1-1. We love you. We love you. We love you.
Okay, here we go. Great. Yeah, she's not mixed. The father's black, the mother's she's a little lighter, but I wouldn't call her you wouldn't call her mixed, really. I think she's just a little bit light skinned, and I think that it comes out, but she also has the curly hair. So take that as you will. That's all I'm gonna tell you. This, like, I had to look for. Yeah, take that as well. Let's get back to it.
Critiques or rather simple observations of this series.
But again, I don't know if she's played the game, so if she may have a problem with it. That's what I'm saying. But but like I said, also like it's kind of like male driven. I also disagree because a lot of women played the Telltale's Walking Dead. Walking Dead was one of those things that, like, a lot of men and the women was fucking with the show, so it had an equal base, and you just instantly, I tell you, once you play the game, you instantly fall in love with Clementine. It's not like regardless of what she was saying, but I wouldn't say like people didn't know she was black. If you'd have saw it, if you'd have picked that picture up, you would have seen she was black. So that's why she get the whole black talk.
But don't let that fool you. Clementine is my favorite video game character of all time. I will slit your throat over baby Clem, so not too much on her. Since then, there have been honorable mentions, such as Billy Lurk from Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, made by a publisher technically under Microsoft, but ultimately a small branch within the larger network. So while it's not technically an indie studio, I would argue that it is a separate thing from AAA. There's also Alex Vance from Half-Life, although she is another example of a black person made as adjacent to whiteness as possible. This isn't to say that mixed representation isn't important, it very much is. In fact, people who are more racially ambiguous do have their own sets of problems that I do not have time to get into today. So this is an actual case of their wins are our wins, but it's a symptom of a larger problem. Then we have Hazel from South of Midnight and Frey from Forspoken, and boy, have I been dreading talking about Forspoken. I don't wish to do a deep dive into this game.
I think Forspoken was just bad writing. Because I don't think no one had a problem with the main character. I think the people had the problem with the writing. And same thing with, well, South of Midnight. Actually, people was like, oh, this is a good game. Everybody was like, this is a good game. So again, I'm not trying to defeat our problems, but this is one of those things where I was hearing, because I never played South of Midnight. I wanted to, because I was like, oh, this game looked really good. Um, but Forspoken, yeah, that I think that one had to do with the writing, not much of the character.
Of Midnight and Frey from Forspoken, and boy, have I been dreading talking about Forspoken. I don't wish to do a deep dive into this game. It's too much material and it would definitely need a separate video to fully give it justice. However, I never wanted to bring it up because it is the pinnacle of failings from both the studio behind it and the gaming community in general. Y'all both suck in this scenario, okay? You brought dishonor to the family. In recent years, there's been a rise in what's called the anti-woke crowd, a group of mostly white people, and I did say mostly, don't offer me nuance here, I got it covered. They stand against diversity and identity politics in games because they believe it drives down the quality of everything it touches. Even though that's not true,
Yeah, I had a problem with that. Even me and Shiny were kind of like had like debates about it. I said, because I tell people I hate the word woke now. I hate the word woke, and the reason why I hate the word woke now because it was used as a negative term for, it's just like, for racist whites to start using it and then just call it everything woke. And it got to a point where it's just like, if I ever did something you call my shit woke, I might stomp you out because you're literally trying to kill my game before it has traction. And I feel like anytime when racist white calls anything woke, you're trying to kill the game before it starts. I don't know what it is about them and diverse. Now, are they are they wrong all the time? No, they're not wrong all the time. Some of the stuff with black female leads, like I did. What's the shit with the Star Wars drink, the Acolyte? The Acolyte was terrible. I don't care what anybody tell you. The Acolyte was terrible. It was boring. It was terrible, and like it really didn't make sense at all. Didn't have anything to do with the lead being black, but it was the story was fucking terrible and very wishy-washy. She-Hulk. I know She-Hulk is more or less Italian than black, but I know a lot of people kind of throw that. I had a arguing with another favorite out there. I was like, no, She-Hulk was fucking terrible. I was like, the writing sucked. I was like, it was just not good. And he still tried to. I was like, no, it's not. The writing was fucking terrible. It was just. I thought the writing was terrible. I did reviews on that. If you want to look at them, each of those, I have them in the description. I'll leave them in the description if you want to see my review of She-Hulk, and if you want to see my review of The Acolyte, I'll put them in the description box.
Games like Baldur's Gate 3 and Fields of Mystria that have diverse casts that were also widely successful. A bad game is a bad game, independent of the appearance of the characters within it. But content creators don't make money if they say that, so they harbor resentment and hate-mongering to further prove that black people and other minority groups don't belong in video games. And Forspoken gave them the perfect source material to validate their biases. Forspoken was released in 2023 by Square Enix, an action RPG following black female protagonist Frey. There is an ecosystem of hate farming that's been able to take place in the name of this game for many actually valid reasons. The game was overpriced, it had shaky optimization, and players stated that the combat and storyline wasn't as engaging as they would like. A lot of people also really hate this New Yorker gone superhero. Even though abrasiveness is common where she's from, she wasn't endearing or had a moving character arc. Allegedly. To be clear, I'm not saying if Forspoken is good or bad. I haven't played it, and the reviews of it are so muddy that it's hard to come up with a definitive answer. It's one of those gotta experience it for yourself sort of situations. The criticism of the game is valid. The criticism of the character's existence is not. But what I found fascinating, or more so disturbing, is how much flack this game was given for being average. It looks like an average game. The world building and characters aren't the best in the world, and it's a steep asking price, but it received mass disproportionate criticism. Most people would simply just not buy the game if it isn't good. But even the content creators who didn't outwardly say themselves any prejudiced comments still allow the people within their communities to do so. They never tell their audience not to say racist things about the characters themselves. And I can already hear the excuse of, it's a given, but is it really? When your community has a history of saying these things, even if they're a loud minority, which isn't true in this case, it paints the picture that these creators don't care. As long as they're getting engagement, the occasional slip of words that wouldn't be able to be said in front of a black person in public gets conveniently skipped over. The game was ripped to shreds by the community, and whether it was deserved or not, the lesson here is simple. Black people, especially black women, do not get to be mediocre. We do not get to be average, because this is what happens when we're average. This is the failings of the studios themselves. If you knew of this implicit bias, how difficult it is to get black women through the door, and the odds that would have to be overcome to make this game successful, why would you place a black woman in today's gaming climate into this? This has always been true, but especially now. Games have to be so good that you forget the character is black. There's no middle ground. There can't be anymore. No one wins in this scenario because at the end of it all, black gamers don't even have a cool product that they can defend. It has to be, I like this game and I know it has XYZ problem, but... And it's not fun to defend something that you like. The Walking Dead is an undeniably good game. It introduced choice-based outcomes in a way that hadn't really been done before. The conclusion is airtight. Audiences of all backgrounds agree. Games like GTA 5 and Detroit Become Human also fall into this category. I wish Forspoken didn't exist, and it's not for the same reasons that the RPG community does. I wish it didn't exist because it provided ammo for bigotry. It's hurtful. It's damaging, and it shuts the already barely open door for future Black-led games to walk through. No one
I'm gonna disagree with that one as well. Just because the whole ammo for bigotry, because obviously if they're bigots, you would want to expose the bigotry. That and again, a lot of these people, especially with the quartering, because that was one of the main people that was kind of like against the game, and it's just like if they're being bigots, you will expose the bigotry. And I tell people all the time, it's just like sometimes you gotta see who your villains are. It's like it's not no he could be bad with it. No, I like a good villain because you know they are bad and they are here to do bad things. And sometimes it's the same thing with racists. I want to know who these racists are because they're going to say and do racist stuff. And this is what you need to point it out, just so people to know that you're not fucking crazy. Because sometimes I say this with white supremacy. White supremacy's biggest fear is them thinking that uh how is it? The thing about white supremacy is supposed to be like white supremacy doesn't exist. They're supposed to be like this telltale, like this ghost story that black people tell. It's oh, you bringing a white man down. So it works against them when you was like, yeah, I'm for white supremacy. Like that doesn't do white supremacy good because you're supposed to be against that shit. So it's the same thing with here. It's just like you see now that you see up from bigotry, you get to call it out and you get to get the proven. So you see it, you get the fuck out of there.
is doing the Black community any favors by doing this, and apparently they're not doing themselves any favors as well. This was a long time coming on Square Enix's part. Apparently Forspoken was the last of a slew of subpar games they were putting out, leading to the studio acquiring mass layoffs, cancellation of IP, and heavy reconstruction. This isn't to say that all Black characters in video games have to be perfect baby angels. Quite the opposite, actually. It's the relatable flaws, nuances, and shortcomings in all of us that make a character likable. If Black people are put on a pedestal, it'll be performative. If they're too gritty or unlikable, then it's woke slop that shouldn't have been made. Making video games with Black women characters is the same tightrope that dictates the moves of Black entertainers and figureheads. There's one group of people that are better at walking this tightrope, and that's because they have to walk it every day. Black game developers. They are the ones that would be able to better represent and advocate for Black characters. But currently, only 5% of those in the industry identify as Black. This is for many reasons. We were given systemic barriers like lack of access to early tech education, social networking within the space, and the ones who manage to enter into the industry do not receive adequate financial backing. If you're a Black developer and you're the only one within your department or even the company, you probably know better than anyone that we can't step too far over the line, especially given today's job market and even more especially in the tech industry. In more ways than one, we are indeed lucky to have a seat at the table in this instance. This is an institution-wide problem, not just a singular company one. Even though I know nothing about making video games, it is easily observable because if it were just as obvious as having more Black game makers, it would have been done by now. This video was hard to make. I identified too closely with the subject matter, and researching this topic was really hurtful. Originally, I was only going to make a video highlighting Black female characters that I loved. Something positive, something that didn't have a heavy subject matter. But as I did further research on these games, I realized the ugly environments that have been cultivated around them, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to make this video because simply talking about Black women in games would ignore this very loud problem. I really want that to sink in. The solution is to provide adequate funding to independent studios. while they're also limited in the diversity that they're pushing for, they're the only ones really trying. If you see a game that's being made by a small team, a game that you believe in, and you have the means to support them, I encourage you to do so. Games like The Walking Dead, Baldur's Gate 3, and Fields of Mystria prove that these studios want to see a change happen within the games industry. And if we can pump enough material into the market, it will normalize the practice of diversity, slowly chip away at implicit bias, and expand social networking. An indie studio may never get into the same rooms as the AAA studios, but if enough of them created a tapestry of planning and support, they could build their own room. And the solution
Me personally, I think you have to have the same type of um mentality Will Smith has, because at them they told, I'm pretty sure they told them, and they told a lot of black actors that black people are successful in other fucking countries. It's like bullshit. I said this, Will Smith was the people to prove that. Denzel, The Rock, all these black, mostly black, Kevin Hart. He's just like, oh, they know my name. Hell, you've seen it with Twitch streamers. Look at IShowSpeed. You kind of like got to put yourself out there and show the people that, hell, even like black entertainers like Beyonce's, and do you know how many people love the blues in UK? And that's just a white audience, because that's just an untapped audience in there. But you got to have. I think you just got to have that energy. Like, oh, they gonna like you the shit, and the world's gonna know you the shit, and I can sell anywhere, black or white, but especially as a black man, I can sell anywhere. So I think that's the attitude that a lot of these game developers. It's just like, if you have a good game with a good story, like it's going to catch on. Now I feel like with South of Midnight, because like I said, South of Midnight good, but the only problem was it was on the Xbox. Xbox really not really putting down games like that. But for, like I said, from the people that did play it, loved it. So it's just gotta have that type of audience. It's the same thing with like Killer Instinct. Killer on the Xbox. Killer Instinct is a great fighting game, but the fact that it's on the Xbox, not a lot of people's going to. Only a limited people's going to experience that. So you gotta. It's on PC now, but people like, you're still missing an audience that's on the PlayStation and the Switch. It's just gotta reach a bigger audience. That way, other people can know how to play, could play it, and then experience it as well.
solution for AAA studios, I beg thee, please stop putting us in mediocre games. I know that there's organizations out there that advocate for diversity, and something feels better than nothing, but our standards have to be higher. Forspoken proved that. Simultaneously, I don't want to blow smoke up your ass either. I don't want to tell you that if we just held hands and went up against the big bad guy that this would suddenly be fixed. Probably isn't that simple. There's most likely other pitfalls and layers of systemic hurdles that have yet to be overcome. And there's still the very loud facet of people who tell me to stop acting like a victim while harassing me. For someone who doesn't want me to act like a victim, you sure are making me into one. Like I said in the beginning of this video, this isn't new. You can apply this to damn near anything and you'll hear the same story. In a way, I am grateful. Not because it's a good thing, but because it proves that I'm not crazy. While there are some very important and valuable Black voices within the gaming community that have been speaking up for years, there are few. And when only a handful of people are sharing your lived experiences, it can be hard to prove that what you're feeling is real, regardless of how real it is. But knowing that creators like FD Signifier, Pillboy, and Shakespeare exist and echo my same sentiments in different mediums shows that this is a long-running issue that can be applied to anything, even video games. Yes, it is that deep. To be honest, y'all, and I'm not saying this lightly, I don't know how much more I want to cover the games industry. I do love video games. I'll always be a part of the community in some way, but the community is rotting from the inside. I've contemplated making another channel and coming back to this one when I have something gaming adjacent to talk about, or pivoting this channel. I still like the video essay structure. I definitely want to keep that. It'd be really cool to talk about like weird internet rabbit holes, or the reason why X black character from this cartoon back in the day was important to the culture. So I might make a Patreon or something. I'm not entirely sure yet. But I just wanted to let you guys know kind of where I was at. I'm under construction. YouTube is very strange. No one tells you whether or not you're doing things correctly, so I'm still trying to figure it out. I hope I did this subject matter justice. Thank you for watching this video. And for all of my critics and detractors who just want me to shut up, I want you to keep one thing in mind.
But I can't wait for you to call me on the telephone.
Her complaints are valid. Let me just start by saying that her complaints are valid. I don't want people to be like, oh, she just, blowing up bullshit or blowing smoke. Her complaints are very valid, but I'm going to say be the change that you want to be. Support the games that you want to see that, promotes diversity. Promote the games that, that's going to have a good storyline and great gameplay and like fascinating graphics to where everything looks good. Because, like I said, how many mediocre white games that we get that doesn't really last? A lot. And again, especially during the whole shooter, when everything was a first person shooter, a lot of straight white males, I couldn't remember half of their fucking names. Now the fact that you name someone like a Clementine, and again, this is where I say quality over quantity. Sometimes it works best because Lee from The Walking Dead, that is one. Clementine from the same series, both great characters, and they're black. And even the support black characters that you get. The black dude from Guilds of War that go whoo a lot. That's my man. I call him Terry Tate because I believe Terry Tate was the dude that played him. But like even because we should, to me as black people, we shine wherever we. As black people, we shine wherever situation give us. We're the epitome of turning lemons into lemonade. So I feel like when we do get the opportunity, it does work out for us. But be the change that you want to be. If you don't see that many black leads in video games, make them. It's the same thing with film. If you don't see that many black film leads, make them. Which again, why I slurped the fucking 90s. I glazed this is the reason why I glazed the 90s. I'm probably gonna do a video on it. I glazed the 90s because that was the era where people was just, you saw black excellence, and we was making our movies, we was making our music, we was making everything. We was the culture. Like you did, black excellence was just everywhere, and you couldn't help it. And we made so many stars out of that era, and I feel like we haven't done that to um we haven't had new black stars the way we still, because we still talk about the stars of the 90s and they're still relevant today. And I feel like we need to put new people in there, and I think we still got, as far as the new generation, I think we have them, but we're not really promoting them because we're still promoting our old celebrities, as we should. But how many times do you want to see Halle Berry play a 30-year-old woman, where we have 30-year-old women like Keke Palmer, and she could play a 30-year-old woman. She's 31, I think. But we have new celebrities, then we need to, push them. And then like we need to produce new stars, new male leads, new female leads, and have our own shit. We're in an era where You don't have to go to Hollywood. You can make your own stuff. You can make your own independent film. We're in an era where you could do your own shit. If Kai Cenat can and ISO Speed can be real famous just by streaming, it tells you where you don't have to go through white people or um the old excuse me, the old ways of going through Hollywood. You could be your own star here. And like we're seeing it, honestly, we're seeing that right now with people like Cassinet and ISO Speed. To where you're seeing them everywhere now, like on commercials and what is that? Kevin Hart is still one of the hardest working people that you were seeing, and he is kind of like you can tell he's doing that with promoting other people. We just got to promote each other. We just got to love each other, and if we see something like a South of Midnight or something else, you just push it, because sooner or later, I feel like you're going to see more of us if we kind of like stick together and we don't have this only one person can make it attitude. And instead, there's plenty of money for everybody there. Good video. Good video. If you like her, like what she was talking about, give her a follow. If you thought I I still think Clementine is one of the greatest female protagonists of all time. I know a lot of people are going to say Samus, Lara Croft, hell, even Ellie from The Last of Us, but Clementine takes my pick. That's my baby. Uh, but let me know what you guys think. If you thought, how do y'all feel about this video? Do you think I was right about anything? Do you think I was wrong about anything? Do you think I misinterpreted anything? Let a brother know. Till then, this has been an after party. And this has been me, and I'll be seeing y'all for the next after party. Me completing these side quests. So